Episode 8. Upon arriving at the dormitory, an unlikely character appeared before Jingfan. It was none other than the universally hated Kuchi Jong. To the other girls living in the dormitory, Kuchi Jong was by no means an unfamiliar name. She was a year younger than Jingfan, but since they were all in the same department, they would at least exchange greetings upon encountering each other despite not having a close relationship. This lovely girl, regarded as a goddess among almost all the boys, unfortunately received the cold shoulder from every other girl. One reason was that her good looks acted as a bright beam of light that blinded anyone who looked at her, but the most prominent reason was that she boasted her perfect looks with pride while putting on an air of superiority, highly irritating the other girls around her. Because of her arrogant attitude, Lee often said her eyes were on top of her head, meaning that she acted arrogantly as if not paying attention to anyone else in the room. Rightfully so, the moment Kuchi Jong made her appearance in the dormitory, the once lively conversations inside instantly turned quiet. The friendly chats among the students broke off as they scurried back to their individual rooms, clearly excluding her. This less than warm welcome caused her face to briefly display the awkwardness she felt, but only for a moment before reverting back to her usual expression. Not only was Kuchi Jong able to ignore the hostile looks from those around her, but she had the nerve to take pride in it. One of her favorite catchphrases was, "It's not my fault I'm beautiful, I get it from my mother." She glanced at the other girls in the dormitory, pretending like everything was fine as she made her way to Jingfan. "Jingfan, I have something I'd like to talk to you about. Can you come outside with me?" Immediately after, Lee chimed in from the side. "What do we have here? Calling on God in desperate times, perhaps? Sorry to disappoint you, but there's no knight in shining armor here to grant your every wish. There also aren't any fragrant flowers for you to pollinate, so what's a queen bee like you doing here? You've got a lot of nerve, seriously," she said in a nasty, noisy voice. Jingfan turned to everyone and said, "I'll be right back," before leaving the dormitory with Kuchi Jong. They sat on a bench inside the gazebo. Jingfan felt slightly guilty as she looked at Kuchi Jong and tried cheering her up. "Don't worry about them, they don't mean it. I'm used to people being nasty to me, so I'm always prepared for it. Believe me, I'm fully aware that no one here likes me. I know it's because the boys come here bringing me flowers every day, but how's that my fault?" Kuchi Jong sighed. There she goes again, always the same stock phrases. Jingfan, just like the other girls, could not approve of how Kuchi Jong changed boyfriends constantly. But Jingfan also believed it was wrong to harass her with malicious remarks. Looking at it from her perspective, Jingfan found it only natural for Kuchi Jong to want to flaunt the explosive beauty she possessed. With her fairness and tolerance, Jingfan was consistently calmer than the average person regarding her personal relationships. "Jingfan, I actually have a favor to ask of you. Recently, I'm looking all over the place for a Japanese language partner. I had one before, but they finished up their studies and went home, so I'm all alone now. I'm not as smart as you are, and my speaking was already mediocre when I did have a language partner, plus I haven't practiced at all for the past month. I'm super worried about those final exams coming up soon, so I want you to introduce me to a new partner. I'm begging you, please help me," Kuchi Jong selfishly pleaded. After hearing this, Jingfan roughly understood her objective. Of course, everyone said her stunning face and style rivaled that of a model's. However, she lacked the brains to accompany her good looks. Her grades in every subject were certainly not in the red, but they were always just barely passing. Jingfan was quite surprised that Kuchi Jong, a girl who disregarded her studies altogether to focus on her beauty, had suddenly started caring about her exams. "Okay, I'll try asking my partner if he knows someone. I can't guarantee we can find one, though. I'm sure you know already, but the School of Classical Chinese has very few Japanese exchange students right now. Anyhow, I'll have my partner look for someone," Jingfan said as she looked at Kuchi-jong with a certain degree of sympathy and naivety, accepting her request. You don't have to go through all that trouble. The guy with you at the dorm yesterday is your partner, right? You can just introduce me to him. I'm totally fine with only studying with him once a week. Is that okay? This made Jingfan finally understand what Kuchi-jong really wanted. Jingfan saw it written on her pretty face. This was the Kuchi-jong that Jingfan knew. Studying was just an excuse. Her true intention was to capture the handsome and charming Koichi Mizuno. Perhaps she took offense to Koichi's cold attitude when the two first met. Seeing as though she was rarely ignored by handsome men like Koichi in particular, her pride had undoubtedly suffered a blow. This was surely the reason she was tugging at Jingfan so persistently. Jingfan was somewhat disappointed as she looked at Kuchi-jong's attractive face. She was still up to her old tricks, and her mindset had not changed in the slightest. Can I ask him tomorrow and get back to you later? Xinlan actually introduced me to him first, so I'll have to ask her as well, Jingfan said with a troubled look on her face. Fine, I'll be waiting here at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. You'll bring me good news, won't you, Jingfan? Kuchi-jong replied cheerfully, to which Jingfan reluctantly nodded. After Jingfan brought this news to everyone back at the dormitory, Xinlan's reaction was the most intense. Jingfan, Qin, if you introduce Koichi to Kuchi-jong, you know I'll never speak to you again, right? She snapped, abruptly jumping out of bed. Li loudly complained in response to Xinlan's point. Be careful, Jingfan. You really shouldn't underestimate Kuchi-jong. She's always going out with not only 2, but 3 or more boyfriends at a time with that pompous attitude of hers. Telling you she wants him as a study partner? Who does she think she's fooling? She's been at the school for 1.5 years now, but has anyone ever actually seen her study before? Her true motivation is as clear as day. Chenyan was usually the quietest of the bunch, but she could not suppress her anger any longer. She's worse than Xiaoliang Wang. He's bad too, but at least you always know what you're getting with him. Kuchi-jong is blatantly lying about doing this for her studies. Secretly, all she wants is to go out with Koichi Mizuno. Even an idiot could see right through that excuse. That's why you should never let your guard down with her, Jingfan. If you're nice to her even a little, 100% she'll pounce without even paying you back for your good intentions. If you introduce her to Koichi Mizuno, I'd give it 3 days before he says sayonara to both you and Xinlan. No matter how much you regret it after that, it'll already be too late, she preached. Aren't you guys exaggerating just a smidge? You're talking as if she's some terrifying, venomous snake who takes the form of a beautiful woman to murder her prey. Say what you want, but she's still a student, you know. I'm sure she doesn't have time to only focus on romance every single day. I think there's a strong possibility she just wants to take time off her love life to study before final exams, said Jingfan after somehow becoming Kuchi-jong's lawyer. Either way, I'll never agree to let you introduce her to Koichi. If I find out you introduced them behind my back, I'll never forgive you, Xinlan finished before stuffing her face into her bed.